you begin to awaken one day, not because the world has changed, but because the mask of your family has started to crack. What you thought was love was often control. What you mistook for warmth was sometimes the fever of your own anxiety, trying desperately to keep others emotionally alive. There comes a silent terror in every empath's journey when they realize their first lessons in compassion were learned inside a system that demanded obedience in exchange for belonging. The home, which should have been the cradle of your individuality, was also the first laboratory of emotional manipulation. The family, in its archetypal sense, is the first God we ever know. Before we speak of divinity, we experience the parental faces as the cosmos itself. The father's gaze becomes the sky of approval or rejection. The mother's voice becomes the sea of comfort or despair. The child grows not as an autonomous being, but as an appendage of that emotional world. And if that world is distorted by narcissism, the child learns an impossible equation that love must be earned by invisibility. You begin to serve the emotional weather of others, forecasting their moods before they even arrive, as if your life depended on it. And in many ways, it did. The empath's gift is often born from trauma. The heightened sensitivity, the telepathic knowing of what others feel, these are not signs of divine favor alone. They are evolutionary strategies of a soul that had to survive in a house of mirrors. When your sense of safety depends on reading the unspoken signals of volatile hearts, your psyche develops antennas tuned to frequencies that ordinary people never hear. You mistake this hyper-attunement for compassion. But beneath it lies fear, the terror of abandonment, the ancient cry of the child who was told that peace would return only if they could make everyone else happy first. The narcissistic family system thrives on illusion. It must project an image of harmony to the outside world, while within it feeds on an unending hierarchy of control. One parent, often wounded by their own unlived life, becomes the tyrant, disguised as victim. The other may disappear into enabling silence, protecting the facade. The children are assigned roles: the golden one who mirrors the parent's false perfection, the scapegoat who absorbs the collective shadow, and the empath who becomes the healer of all wounds but their own. Before we descend deeper, if this recognition is awakening something within you, please like and subscribe. Your journey matters, and together we create a community of the conscious. To be the empath in such a structure is to live as an emotional priest, constantly atoning for sins you never committed. The unconscious learns a sacred lie that suffering is love. This lie, whispered through generations, forms a psychic covenant. You believe that if you can just love purely enough, deeply enough, you will redeem the broken hearts around you. But redemption was never your role. You are not the savior of your family's shadow. You are its carrier. Every suppressed emotion, every denied truth becomes lodged in your nervous system like a relic of someone else's religion. Yet there is something divine hidden even in this distortion. The empath's pain is not merely personal, it is archetypal. It is Psyche descending into the underworld. It is Persephone abducted into shadow realms to learn rebirth. It is consciousness itself carrying inherited wounds so that awareness may finally awaken. You were chosen not to suffer, but to see, to perceive the collective wound that binds humanity. And that seeing begins at home. When you realize that your compassion was conditioned by fear, a strange alchemy begins. The emotions you once projected outward turn inward. You see that the narcissist's need for control was their way of avoiding their own inner chaos, just as your need to rescue was your way of avoiding your helplessness. You were both prisoners of the same unintegrated shadow, playing opposite roles in the same tragic play. The empath's awakening begins when you stop performing, when you allow yourself to no longer be the emotional parent to your own parents. To detach from such a system is not cruelty, it is individuation. The path toward wholeness demands that one separate from collective expectations, even from the family mythos. Every family carries a myth, a story of who we are, what is allowed, what must remain unspoken. To awaken as an empath is to betray that myth in service of truth. It feels like death because it is one. The death of the false self built to keep love alive. The death of the caretaker identity that equated boundaries with betrayal. Countless souls tremble before this threshold. They speak of guilt as if it were oxygen, the guilt of feeling joy when their mother is still sad, the guilt of choosing silence when the father demands allegiance. But guilt is not proof of wrongdoing. It is the ghost of the family's control, still whispering through your blood. It is the internalized voice of the narcissist who taught you that autonomy is abandonment. To free yourself, you must reinterpret guilt as a signpost. Every time you feel it, you are touching the edge of your liberation. The narcissistic family is a psychological vampire, not because it seeks to destroy, but because it fears emptiness. The narcissist cannot bear the void within. They must fill it with admiration, attention, or conflict. They use the empath as a mirror, demanding endless reflection of their false self. The empath becomes the perfect supply radiant, forgiving infinitely available. The narcissist feeds, the empath depletes. Both avoid the abyss of their own unlived pain. But something miraculous happens when the empath turns inward. When the gaze that once watched others for danger begins to watch the self for truth, you see that beneath your compassion lies resentment. Beneath your gentleness lies rage. Beneath your service lies exhaustion. These are not signs of failure. They are unintegrated emotions that were disallowed in childhood. They are the missing colors of your psychic palette. To reclaim them is to resurrect the self, not the persona that pleases, but the archetype of wholeness that unites light and shadow. The family is where we first learn to love. But for the empath, it is also where we first learn to disappear. The path of healing requires that you return to that moment of vanishing and choose differently. You must allow the inner child, the one who learned to survive, by sensing every mood to rest. Tell that child, you no longer have to predict. You no longer have to fix. You are safe now. Only then can empathy transform from bondage into wisdom. True empathy does not sacrifice the self. It arises from the self that has survived sacrifice. There is a moment when awareness feels like betrayal. The empath looks back at the faces that shaped them and realizes that love was conditioned upon emotional servitude. This recognition is unbearable at first. It feels like desecrating a shrine. But what is sacred can also become idolatry when worshipped blindly. To question the family myth is to risk exile. Yet it is precisely that exile that births consciousness. When the empath begins to see, they often turn that sight inward with cruelty. It must be my fault. I should have been stronger, less sensitive. But sensitivity was never the crime. It was the mirror that revealed what others refused to see. In narcissistic systems, truth-tellers are always punished. Every family carries a collective unconscious, a hidden chamber of denied feelings and forbidden truths. The narcissist projects that darkness onto the empath, who then spends years cleansing emotions that were never theirs. They feel shame for another's arrogance, guilt for another's cruelty, fear for another's instability. This is why the empath walks through life exhausted. They are not merely tired from giving. They are haunted by energies implanted in them long before they could say no. Understanding Carl Jung empath and personal development through this lens reveals that what we call compassion is sometimes possession. The psyche operates through fields of projection, and where there is projection, there is energetic fusion. The empath's aura becomes a canvas upon which others paint their unresolved wounds. This is why detachment feels violent. You are peeling off psychic skin that was mistaken for love. Individuation is not self-improvement. It is a rebellion of the soul against every internalized tyrant. When the empath begins this process, they encounter an ancient voice within the inner parent, built from the tones of those who once held power over them. This voice says, "You are selfish. You have forgotten your duty. You owe them." It masquerades as conscience, but it is really the superego of the family cult. To challenge it is to provoke panic. Yet this confrontation is sacred. You cannot become whole until you dethrone that inner false god. Transformation is a kind of alchemy. In dreams and myths, the hero descends into darkness, dismembers, and reassembles anew. This dismemberment is psychological, the dismantling of all false identities. The empath must confront the archetype of the wounded healer and release it. As long as you define yourself by your wounds, you remain bound to them. The moment you say, "I'm no longer the one who saves," you open space for the divine to move through you. In such moments, grief becomes revelation. You mourn not only the parents you had, but the parents you imagined. This mourning is essential. If you skip it, you remain trapped in the hope that your love will finally repair them. But consciousness demands renunciation. You cannot awaken others by staying asleep with them. When you stop rescuing, you give others back their destiny. You allow them the dignity of their own suffering. The empath's greatest temptation is spiritual pride. You tell yourself, "I forgive because I understand." Yet if forgiveness comes before boundaries, it is merely repression disguised as virtue. You cannot transcend what you have not confronted. The unconscious does not care for appearances. What is unhealed will demand expression through illness, anxiety, or relational repetition. You will keep attracting the same archetype until the pattern becomes unbearable. Only then does the empath utter the sacred word, "No." No is not rejection. It is revelation. It is the voice of the self asserting its sovereignty. When you say no to exploitation, you are saying yes to your divine nature. The narcissist will interpret your boundary as attack. They will accuse you of cruelty, coldness, betrayal. And for a time, the empath will believe them. But endurance builds clarity. When the storm subsides, you begin to see the pattern, not as personal, but archetypal. You realize that every family, every culture enacts the same drama between controller and caretaker. Sun and moon masculine, will and feminine compassion. Individuation means becoming conscious of the myth so that you no longer live it unconsciously. Narcissism is not the opposite of empathy. It is its shadow. The narcissist's self-absorption is a caricature of the empath's self-erasure. Both are distortions of the self. The empath represses the will to power. The narcissist represses the capacity for tenderness. Healing begins when you recognize this mirror. To hate the narcissist is to remain bound to them. To understand them is to retrieve the fragments of your own denied power. The study of Carl Jung empath and personal development teaches us that the path to freedom is paradoxical. You must descend before you can rise. At the center of the labyrinth sits the Great Mother, not your personal mother, but the primordial matrix of life itself. She holds both nurture and devourment. To meet her is to understand that the family was only her mask. But now, as a conscious being, you must stand before her and say, "I will take my life back." She will not release you easily. She will test your devotion, your courage, your willingness to stand alone. Yet if you endure, if you can bear the loneliness of authenticity, something extraordinary occurs. The child within you begins to sing. This song is not of rebellion, but of return. You realize that freedom does not mean disconnection. It means relationship without possession. You can love without losing yourself. The empath becomes a conscious vessel, no longer a sponge. You become the alchemist, who transforms pain into perception. When you emerge from the labyrinth of the family shadow, the air feels different. Thin cold, yet astonishingly clean. You breathe not through fear, but through truth. You realize that healing was never about returning to who you were before the pain. It was about becoming someone who could never again be enslaved by it. The empath who once kneeled at the altar of other people's emotions now walks upright, grounded by silence. This silence is not emptiness, it is sovereignty. In this silence, you begin to understand what love truly is. Love is not the anxious tending to another's chaos, nor the compulsive forgiveness of their cruelty. Love is a recognition of the divine within both you and the other, untainted by illusion. The narcissist could never give you that, because they could not see the divine within themselves. Their tragedy was blindness. Your temptation was pity. But pity is not love. Compassion is love without attachment. It sees suffering and knows it is not yours to carry. You begin to feel gratitude for the dynamics that once broke you. The family's manipulation becomes your initiation. Their control, your awakening. You see now that the soul often chooses difficult conditions to carve its depth. Without the narcissist's mirror, you might have remained asleep in comfort. Pain was your teacher, but awareness is your graduation. One evening you might remember a childhood moment, the look in your parents' eyes, when you tried to assert yourself, the sharp withdrawal of affection. Once this memory made you ache. Now it evokes understanding. You see the wounded child inside that parent, terrified of rejection, replaying an ancient script. You whisper, "I release you." Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Forgiveness is not reconciliation. It is freedom from repetition. When you forgive, you are no longer bound to the karmic wheel of reaction. As your awareness expands, you sense that the family pattern was never only personal. It was an expression of humanity's long struggle with self-love and self-forgetfulness. The narcissist and the empath are universal archetypes. When you integrate these opposites within yourself, you contribute to the healing of the whole. Your personal liberation becomes a cosmic event. Every time you choose awareness over guilt, authenticity over approval, you shift the vibration of the human psyche. You may find yourself drawn to new creativity, writing, teaching, such healing. Not to prove your worth, but because life wishes to express through you. What was once suppressed energy now flows freely. People may say, "You have such a calming presence. You seem to understand things no one else sees." And they are right. You have walked through fire and learned to listen to silence. In dreams, the house of your childhood may return, but this time it is different. The rooms are filled with light. The mirrors no longer distort. This dream is symbolic completion. The psyche, having integrated its fragments, now projects wholeness instead of fracture. The inner family has been restored. The inner mother, nurturing but not consuming. The inner father, protective but not oppressive. The inner child, playful but no longer afraid. This is the true meaning of rebirth. When you meet others still trapped in the narcissistic web, you no longer feel the urge to save them. You offer presence instead of persuasion. You understand that each soul must awaken at its own pace. This humility protects you from the subtle arrogance of the healed. Healing is not hierarchy. It is remembrance. Now your empathy becomes a sacred instrument. You can enter another's pain without absorbing it. You perceive the archetypal patterns beneath their stories, the child seeking love, the parent demanding control, the lover fearing loss. You see that everyone is acting out a fragment of the same collective dream. Awareness no longer isolates you. It connects you to the essence of all life. The wisdom of Carl Jung, Empath, and personal development culminates in this realization. To love consciously is to participate in the evolution of consciousness within humanity. The narcissist's trap now appears fragile, a house built of mirrors reflecting emptiness. You see how the world itself operates through similar illusions. Nations feeding on pride, leaders demanding devotion, masses surrendering thought for belonging. But now you know, the only revolution that matters begins within. As you walk through life with this awareness, even ordinary moments shimmer. The way sunlight falls on a table, the sound of rain against glass. Everything feels alive, interconnected. You no longer chase meaning. Meaning arises naturally like breath. You understand what it means to become who you truly are. And who you are is not an empath defined by pain, but consciousness itself, the eternal witness playing the temporary role of a human being. There will still be days when old wounds whisper, but you will recognize it now. You will smile gently and say, "I know you." Awareness transforms even the shadow into ally. Every scar becomes scripture, every memory a message. You carry no resentment, only understanding that great alchemical force which turns tragedy into wisdom. You have become your own parent, both the loving mother and the steady father within. And so you live quietly but powerfully, walking among those still asleep, not as a preacher, but as a presence. Your empathy, once reactive, now radiates. You do not speak of enlightenment, for your life itself has become the sermon. You are proof that consciousness can emerge from captivity, that love can outgrow fear, that even the deepest wounds can become windows to the divine. The narcissist's trap was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. For only through illusion does truth reveal its necessity. And perhaps one day, you will sit across from someone who reminds you of your former self, anxious, depleted, lost in the labyrinth of a family that demanded devotion instead of love. They will speak through tears, and you will listen with quiet knowing. You will not rescue them. Instead, you will hold the sacred mirror, the kind that does not distort, but reflects truth. And in your stillness, they will glimpse themselves not as broken, but as becoming. In that moment, the cycle ends. The empath becomes the mirror of consciousness, not of family. This is the final liberation: to love without bondage, to feel without absorption, to walk through the world untouched, yet deeply connected. You have become the living symbol of consciousness, awakening through relationship proof that the family shadow was not a curse, but the chrysalis from which your divinity emerged. And when the night is quiet and you find yourself alone again, you may whisper into the silence, "It was never about them," and the silence will answer, "It was always about you," remembering that you were never trapped, only dreaming. If this journey mirrors your own awakening, share in the comments. What was your first moment of recognition? Subscribe to continue this path of consciousness together. Remember, your sensitivity is not a wound. It is a compass pointing toward your divine nature. You are not broken. You are breaking free.